The things that I've done so far that are the most exciting to me would be like we had a guy that owns a large company. They only do like billion plus projects and maybe like 800 million plus projects. And so when they go to do an estimate, it takes roughly 10 people 3 months to put an estimate together for them, give or take. And we built a system for them that can do that entire estimate in one night.
The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 10 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS product lineup includes string inverters ranging from 25 kW to 350 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 350 kW, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. CPS is the world's most bankable inverter brand and is America's #1 choice for solar plants, now offering solutions for commercial, utility, ESS, and balance of system requirements. Go to chintpowersystems.com or call 855-584-7168 to find out more. Hey guys, are you a residential solar installer doing light commercial but wanting to scale into large C&I solar? I'm Tim Montague. I've developed over 150 megawatts of commercial solar, and I've solved the problem that you're having. You don't know what tools and technologies you need in order to successfully close 100 kW to megawatt scale projects. I've developed a commercial solar accelerator to help installers exactly like you. Just go to cleanpowerhour.com, click on strategy, and book a call today. It's totally free with no obligation. Thanks for being a listener. I really appreciate you listening to the pod. And I'm Tim Montague. Let's grow solar and storage. Go to Clean Power Hour and click strategy today. Thanks so much.
The clean energy industry is moving fast. The deals are getting bigger, the technology is evolving, and the stakes have never been higher. Welcome to the Clean Power Hour, the podcast for solar, storage, and microgrid professionals who want to stay ahead of it all. Each week, your host, Tim Montague, industry advisor and president of Clean Power Consulting Group, brings you unfiltered conversations with the leaders actually building the energy transition. Now, here's your host, Tim Montague.
Today on the Clean Power Hour, a digital workforce is coming for your job, but it's going to help you grow your company, go faster, cheaper, better. I am a catalyst for the clean energy transition. That's why I created the Clean Power Hour, to help others go further, faster into the energy transition. Well, my guest today is a gentleman who is building a digital workforce and helping companies automate aspects of their operations that is really going to blow your mind. So welcome, Jesse Anglen, the co-founder of Rue AI.
Tim, nice to hang out, man. I'm looking forward to this.
I'm so happy that your bot found me on LinkedIn.
Yes, I am as well. I try to put my money where my mouth is and actually use AI agents to do work for me. It's funny how I meet a lot of people who are like, I love AI. I'm like, how are you using it? And they're like, well, I use ChatGPT to help me write emails. Like, okay, yeah, I love AI too, like that. But like, you do know that you haven't even begun to scratch the surface if that's all you're using AI for is you go use a large language model to help you write emails. It's fun when you start getting them actually doing the kind of work that you have to get done. And it just does it on its own without thinking about it.
It's a strange time because we're very early in the AI revolution. Only a fraction of knowledge workers are still using LLMs, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, Gemini, etc. But at the same time, the agentic aspects of the technology are getting good enough where you can set them loose and they will do real things. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But Jesse, for my listeners, paint us a picture of how you got interested in AI. You're also a Web 3.0 entrepreneur. So just give us a picture of why you're here now.
Yeah, I was just trying to solve problems. So I had a large software development company that was building decentralized applications on blockchains. And when I say large, it wasn't large. It was like 370 developers that worked for me. And one of the issues that I had was that we only worked with startups and first-time entrepreneurs, or at least people who were building novel technology for the first time, which meant that as a part of our process, I had to sit down with a guy like you, and you had this crazy idea in your head, right? That you now want to get built and bring into reality. And I had to somehow pull that completely out of your head, and I had to get it into a concrete format so that I could give it to a developer, to a software engineer, and they could build it. And if a mistake was made during that process, the engineers would build the wrong thing, and I would deliver you a product that wasn't what you wanted, and then we would have to go back and make changes and fix things. And I don't know if you've worked solely with startup founders, but they're often crazy, ethereal vision type people. They're not good oftentimes at articulating the details of what it is that they want. And in order to do a really good job of building a piece of software for someone, you actually have to get all the details. And so I had this massive bottleneck. Well, you'd think we'll go hire people for it. Well, I tried, but there were very few people that I found that were able to sit down and have those conversations. And so the process for me to sit down with someone took about 6 weeks. I found 2 other guys that could do the same thing, which meant that we could onboard like 3 clients at a time, and we weren't going to be able to grow. And in early 2022, a guy that worked for me, Hansel, one of the smartest guys I've ever met, and I sat down and we thought, okay, we have to solve this problem. We found this tiny little company called Open AI that had created something they called a language model called DaVinci 001. And they actually, right after we started messing around with it, released another model called DaVinci 002. And these models were really weird because you could talk to them and they almost sounded smart. Like if you had a simple conversation, they could fool you that they were completely human. If you had a complex conversation, everything would fall apart. They forgot everything after about 3 paragraphs that you had said prior. I think their context window on the one of them was 2,000 tokens or about 1,700 words. And the other one, I think, might have been 5,000 tokens or about 4,000 words. And we thought, well, let's try to make a system where you give all the transcripts from the conversations that you're having with the clients or that we brought on, and it produces questions. And then we can record all those questions and slowly feed those transcripts into these models and see if it can make all the documentation. And so we over-engineered the system. Took us several months. But the thing that was nuts about it is it worked. It took our 6-week process and turned it into a 4-day process that not only myself and those other 2 guys could do, but that probably 10 people on my team could do. And so all of a sudden, bottleneck gone. And I thought, man, this is crazy. Like, it's like having access to, almost like having access to intelligence on like at an API call. And at the time I was talking to a friend of mine, and he's really the guy who inspired me and got me really excited. We were talking about photographs and what happens when you take a biological problem or a chemistry problem or any problem really, and you turn it into a math problem. You're able to scale that solution infinitely. Chemistry is a really good example. When you look at photography was a chemistry problem for years and years and years. And as soon as they took the chemistry problem of photography and they turned it into a math problem and we got digital photography, all of a sudden pictures are disposable. I was talking to my son this weekend. We were fixing his truck and I took a picture of something before we took it apart. And I just had this random thought. When I was a kid, when you went to do that, you couldn't have done it. Like, I wouldn't have got out the camera, stuck in a roll of film, took a picture, brought it down to Walgreens, developed it, and then 8 days later, picked it up and then had that as a reference so I could put something back together. Like, it was just unreasonable. Well, now we take pictures like they're worth nothing to us, right? Like they have no value. Well, in my mind, I made the association between the chemistry problem in photography and the biological problem in human labor. And I thought, I'm going to pursue this as far as I can. And I want to figure out how to get computers to solve work problems. Like, typically the only only, that humans have to do, that biology has to do. And so we started working on stuff that year. 2020 in 2022 in November, OpenAI released ChatGPT 3.5, which is the one that everyone kind of started getting on board with. And what was interesting about what we were building is that when they released that and we plugged those models in, all of the work that we had done in 2022 became 100x smarter overnight.
Wow.
And it blew my mind, because the systems were already useful, and they really became overnight something that like fundamentally was going to change my entire business.
So give us some context though on when you say making it 100 times more valuable, what exactly were you creating?
So when you take somebody and you pull an idea out of their head and you have to go build a piece of software, it requires a product specifications document, which basically says this is the product and here's all the specifications. It requires a technical specifications document that says here's the tech stack we're going to use, the technology we're going to use, why we're going to use it, here's the architecture that we're going to use, these are here's the database, these are the schemas, this is how we're going to organize things, because you want to put it together in a way that you can scale it. It's kind of like if you go to build a house, no one just dumps a pile of lumber on a piece of property and starts building stuff, right? Like generally they have a plan, because if you just start hacking things together, and you just start building, like you'll get something. Like that is true. You'll have a house, it'll have a roof, it'll have windows, but you might not have a bathroom, or you might have to stuff it into the garage when you're done, or who knows what'll happen, right? And so at the beginning of a software project, you really want to take time to understand put a blueprint together, figure out what it is you're building. Well, that ends up being, for most products, around 250 pages of documentation that allows a developer to always have answers to every single question that they could ask. Now, it doesn't work out like that in real life. You still have to meet with the client. There's still other stuff that would come up. There's another 250 pages of documentation you can probably come up with. But that's what those models were doing for us, was we were feeding them the transcripts from calls that we would have with them. They would then come back to us with questions we needed to ask in order to gather the requirements that we needed to build the project. And then once it had all of those questions asked, we would take all the transcripts from those calls, give it back to the models, and the models would put together the documentation. And when ChatGPT 3.5 came out, it had a 16,000 token context window. Like that was like 10 pages of text, which was incredible compared to the 10 paragraphs of text we had access to before. And so we would feed that stuff in, and we had an interesting system for making it work, because we were coming up with hundreds and hundreds of pages of requirement documentation. And so we did some clever engineering, but we got this thing to actually output everything for us. No manual writing, no anything. I look at it today and it's like, well, yeah, of course you can do that. It's like a super simple task today. But back then in 2022, that was like magic. And when ChatGPT 3.5 came out and I watched what it did, I decided that in my company, anytime anyone left or anytime anybody had to be let go, we were going to try to replace them with an AI across everything. And so we did. And over the course of the next, I guess, 2 years, we went from 370 people down to about 85 people. And we were doing the same amount of work. If not, we had probably grown 10 or 15% in the amount of work that we were doing. And
so you're talking about Rapid Innovation,
your
software company.
Yes.
And you're making software for what audience?
It was back then, it was really all of the entrepreneurs in the blockchain space was the niche that we were in. And so we were building out exchanges, and we were building out, everything that you can imagine inside the blockchain space.
Let's put our finger on a few things: banking, contracts, smart contracts.
It was almost all smart contract development. So it was decentralized exchanges, and so like swap contracts and things along those lines. We did several things in the supply chain in order to like track products and goods that were manufactured all the way, from kind of the farm to table tracking for different supply chain things.
Okay. Well, let's fast forward.
and
Let's
stuff
fast
along those
forward and
lines.
get into the Rue AI story. Fast forward to 2025 in April of last year. So a year ago, you founded Rue AI, RUH AI. Check it out. And what was the seed for that? And obviously the agents or the AI tools have gotten much better now. And now we're in the takeoff. I mean, technically, we've always been in the takeoff, but we're starting to see elevation, right? We're starting to feel the speed at which things are getting better and the recursivity. The AI is improving itself. The companies, OpenAI, et cetera, right, will tell you that 90% of the work is being done by the AI itself.
Yep. Well, and what's funny is when I used to tell people that AI was going to change the world back in 2022, I would get laughed at because they're like, I went and used it. It's like, I don't understand what you're talking about. Like, you don't see it. And even in 2023, after ChatGPT 3.5 was released, they're like, I tried to use it. Like, it's useless. And it's funny because I was literally making, like gobs of money using it. And everyone else was telling me, oh, it's useless. It can't do anything.
Well, you had a very specific use case that it was very good at early on.
Yeah, which I think, and what we've seen over the last several years is it's broadening its ability to help people. And so for me, what happened and the reason Rue exists is because we had a lot of clients, right? Well, they're seeing us do tons of work using AI. And the question they always came to me with was, hey, do you see any applications for AI in my business? And these are people that have, very different businesses than me, like they're in banking or they're in the supply chain business, or, they're in like overland transportation, and, they're in manufacturing. And so I started looking at other people's businesses, and we started building digital workforces for other people. And they were all custom builds, custom employees, where we'd go into their business, find levers that we could pull, and then build them digital employees that would help them. That would help them leverage AI in their business. And I did that enough on top of the foundation that I had spent building for the past several years that it made sense to separate the companies. And I had become obsessed with this idea of digital labor or AI agents or human emulators or whatever people want to call them today. And so I had basically fallen completely out of love with blockchain. It was, you could say I was having an illicit affair with AI, and had completely ignored the blockchain space for so many years that I couldn't even really have an intelligent conversation with people about the current events. And so I thought, what, I should just step down as CEO from Rapid Innovation. We should divide these companies into two. I'll sit on the board over there, and we'll start another company dedicated to this new thing that I think is going to fundamentally change the world. And we have already tons of clients because people are coming to us, and when I show them what it is that we built for ourselves, they want the same systems built for them. And so we split the company in half, started Rue AI, and started taking this architecture that we had built mostly for ourselves and for our clients, and thought, how do we commercialize this and turn it into something that solves real problems for real people? And so we started building and organizing, really, and getting the foundation to a place where it was commercially viable. All this, all the security and the compliance stuff that you don't think about when you're building something for yourself. And then when we launched, it was like, okay, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? Well, I have a background in construction. I spent the early part of my life in the first couple of companies that I built were in the construction industry. And one of the things that I knew about construction is that it's very complex. Like, you have all of the work that I would have to do as far as organization and administration and knowledge work. And then you also have to go put people on the ground to do things in the real world, right? It's almost like having 5 or 6 different companies that you're trying to run at the same time. It's a lot of moving parts. And the software as a service world, or the SaaS world, had basically left all these people behind, right? Like, if you look at the software that makes construction easier today, you've got Procore, you've got Blue Collar by Oracle, and that might be it. Like, there's not really much more than that. And so there's software that exists. Everyone in the industry hates the software. It's a necessary evil. It's slightly better than using spreadsheets and whiteboards. And so I thought, why don't we go into the construction industry? And so I had a conversation with a guy, told him what we were doing, showed him a couple of things. He's like, yeah, let's meet next week. I'll bring a couple more people. And this was earlier this year. And on that call, when I showed back up, there was 50 people on the call, because they're like, oh my gosh, maybe this guy has a solution to all the pain that we feel on a daily basis. And AI can actually start helping us, at least with some of our administrative, the administrative overwhelming administrative burden that sits on us at the level that they were doing projects. And then it just has turned into a niche, which is funny because I got into software development to get out of construction, and now I'm coming full circle. It's bringing me back. They say once you get in, you never get out. Maybe it's like the Hotel California. I'm back.
I love your analysis of construction. I agree. It is several different companies in one, and it's way more complicated than meets the eye. I think society tends to downplay A, the value, or B, the complexity of running an effective, efficient, quality construction company. There's lots of companies. There are a few very good, well-run, profitable, and efficient construction companies.
Well,
my listeners,
none of them are profitable. Like, and when I say none of them are profitable, it's insane to me to go find someone who runs a really successful, like let's say $2-3 billion a year in revenue.
Yeah.
Like they're happy when they walk away with 3% profit at the end of the year.
Well, things are a little different in solar. I cut my teeth working in the solar construction industry. I am a consultant to solar contractors. We call them EPCs. They're installers and EPCs, and some of them are residential, and some of them are resi and commercial, and some of them are commercial only or utility only.
Is there more profit margin in the solar construction world?
Well, certainly most installers are striving to achieve a 20% profit.
Okay. That's not bad.
Are they actually achieving that is a whole other thing. Meanwhile, there's tremendous downward price pressure on the industry as a whole.
Because of competition, right? Like I'm assuming anyone, like the barrier to entry is low enough that you can get a lot of people in, and then there's a lot of people competing and it drives the price down.
Yeah, it's become very competitive.
Yeah.
So anyway, and it's a good thing that the price is coming down. Two things are happening in our industry. The cost of electricity is going up, which increases the value of solar. Any solar array produces electricity. So solar electricity becomes more value as electricity becomes expensive. And the price of technology is coming down. We're automating the fabrication of solar panels, racking, inverters, etc. We're in the process of onshoring a lot of that as well, which is a counterbalance, because American manufacturing is not cheaper than manufacturing in Southeast Asia or China. But anyway, the price of technology coming down, we call it the cost adoption curve, and the price of electricity going up means that there's anti-gravity for the industry, and the industry is growing despite headwinds from the federal government, which is hating on us right now. We're growing, and we're growing in select markets. It is very geographically specific. So, but Jesse, when you think about construction software, we have project management, we have estimating, there's all kinds of communication tools, ways to capture information on job sites, pictures, progress, etc., bringing it all in. Give us some examples, though, of how you've leveraged this digital workforce and are building custom digital employees or digital. I mean, once you build one, you can multiply it by 1 million for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you build it once, that is the chemistry to math problem that we're talking about, right? It's infinitely scalable. Once you take a biological problem, meaning I have to hire people to do this, you turn it into a math problem, all of a sudden you can scale it infinitely. And that's the leverage that you have access to that I think very few people really understand, because we don't get exponential growth as humans. I think we just struggle to understand it. But and the main things that we're doing is mostly administrative, obviously, right? Like the AI is not to a place where we're going to go out and be installing solar panels anytime super soon. It'll get there. Like I've seen People laugh at me when I say that because they go look at the robots that do stuff, but it will get there. Like I can see that we're making progress quickly. The AI has to get better, and then robotics has to get better. And the AI's understanding of the physical world has to get better because it has no model of the physical world and what it means to actually walk around somewhere and move something from point A to point B or any of those kinds of things. But so the stuff we're doing right now, I would say is all very either top of funnel, meaning it's lead generation and sales, or administrative back office. The things that I've done so far that are the most exciting to me would be like we had a guy that owns a large company. They only do like billion plus projects and maybe like 800 million plus projects. And so when they go to do an estimate, it takes roughly 10 people 3 months to put an estimate together for them, give or take. And we built a system for them that can do that entire estimate in one night. And so you feed it all the information and it does the estimate. And not only does it do the estimate, but it does a gap analysis and says, hey, this is everything that I'm missing in order to put together a good estimate for you. And it sends those people that it has that would be normally doing the estimate out to go gather that information and to bring it back to the AI so that it can put together something really, really tight that they know is accurate, that isn't missing anything. To take a 10-person 3-month process and turn it into a 12-hour process is like that was super exciting. In the manufacturing space, like another fun project that we did this was very top of funnel. It was for incoming sales. We took a company that had 300 incoming salespeople, and we basically built a system that replaced all of those people. It took us about 3 weeks to build the agent, and they replaced all 300 of those people and saved themselves like $3.5 million in payroll. And then the other stuff is like a lot of it's lead generation. Like, imagine as a contractor, if you had the ability to check, every single permit pulled in every single county that you work in, or every single request for new construction, every single, like someone goes and does a request for a big solar farm. It's like, well, you could know about it, and they may not have a contractor yet because oftentimes those guys are talking to the county and trying to get stuff approved before before they actually start contacting installers and all those other people that they need.
Right.
Well, installers could go and monitor every single county website looking for every single permit request and all of that stuff, but it would be so much work. Like there's a biological inefficiency problem that just says you can't hire 30 people to spend all day reading data on people's websites. So you can go get an AI agent to do this stuff really, really easily. And then that gives you insight into who you should be calling and who's doing what. And so you can build relationships with them. And so it's a lot of those kinds of activities. And then on the financial side of things is, for the larger companies, like if you've got a company doing $1 billion a year in revenue, you're dealing with around 10,000 invoices a month, and you have to make sure and let's say 500 subcontractors. And so there's a lot of just administrative workload that comes along with doing that, with compliance, financial administration, just juggling W-9s would be a nightmare. Well, you can plug an agentic system into that administrative back office that just does those things for you, so you can focus on the work that you should be doing. Go out and build stuff, install solar panels, et cetera, et cetera.
And for my
that's the vast majority of what we've been building.
For my regular listeners, check out episode 322 with Spark AI, Anu Saigal, and Julia Wu. They are doing what Jesse was just talking about with Spark AI. They've created a platform that goes out there and sources what's going on in all these different AHJs across the country. So no matter what jurisdiction you're working in, you have a central repository of signals about, are there friendly AHJs? Are there good, policies in place? Or is there a ban on solar? Some counties do this periodically. They ban solar and wind. They get freaked out. So anyway, is
that real? Counties will ban solar and wind? This is new. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a real thing. It's a real pain in the butt. NIMBYism is a powerful force in the energy transition. People look at a solar farm and go, wait a minute, we've got corn and beans today, and tomorrow you want to put this, steel and glass structure on my farm? BTF, bro. And I'm like, you know what? The enemy is actually urban sprawl. It's not renewable energy, because we're only going to convert 1 to 2% of the landscape to solar farms. That's all we need to completely green the grid. So it's really it's a non-issue. But they don't understand this, and it's not the landowner, it's the neighbors of the landowner that are objecting. The landowner can triple their income by leasing their property to a solar developer, but the neighbors go, hey, I don't want to look at a solar farm. Sorry, I'm going to object to this. The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 10 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS product lineup includes string inverters ranging from 25 kW to 350 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 350 kW, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. CPS is the world's most bankable inverter brand and is America's #1 choice for solar plants, now offering solutions for commercial, utility, ESS, and balance of system requirements. Go to chintpowersystems.com or call 855-584-7168 to find out more. Back to, how do we automate construction operations? Okay, I get this question a lot. Tim, how are people using AI? And I'm like, well, they're using it in all different ways. And you're the first person really that I've come across that is building tools for construction. I guess you're the second person. And I think that bidding estimating is extremely time consuming to do it accurately with humans. And it is a job that is clearly, attackable with these AI tools. What are the AI tools though that my listeners who are company owners, okay, want to be aware of? Is it off the shelf? And what is the lift financially in time and money to take a process and automate it?
So that's a really, really good question. It's the question I think everyone should be asking, actually. And it's got a very simple answer, but in order to understand the answer, you first have to understand what is an AI agent. And right now we have a problem in the nomenclature where people say, I've built an agent, and then someone else says, I built an agent, and they're two vastly different things. And so I put AI agents into 3 categories. Category 1, I don't personally call an AI agent, but everyone else does, so I have to call them AI agents. And that would be automation 2.0, right? Like, we've been automating knowledge work for 20 years, 15. And all of that automation that you've been able to do, so this would be things like N8N workflows, even like if you go and use MailChimp and send out, a campaign to an email list, like that's an automation that was built. Times past, people used to sit down and send all those emails out. And so automation 2.0 comes along, and they've injected large language models into the workflow, and it makes the workflows more intelligent. So you might call it intelligent automation or automation 2.0 or something along those lines. But these workflows don't have any idea as to whether or not they have failed at a task or not. And right. So they start at point A, they end at, their end of the workflow. They have an input, they have an output. They don't care what they output. They don't care what they get for their input, and they just work, right? And so that's category 1. People call those agents. I don't think they are agents because they don't have agency. They don't know if they've failed. Bucket number 2 is what I would call human orchestrated AI. The vast majority of the agentic tools that are on the market today are human orchestrated AI. My favorite is probably Claude Cowork and Claude Code, but these are things like Codex 5.4, like Manus. And what they are is they're systems that are intelligent enough to really almost do anything that you need them to do. Like, for instance, my son today he lost the buttstock for his AR, his airsoft rifle at an airsoft party. And so I asked an AI to go find me one for his gun that can be 3D printed, and to download it, open it in Elegoo Slicer, set up the print with, the filament that I've got on my 3D printer right now, and get it printing. And it's actually done that while you and I were on this call. So it went out, found it, downloaded it, opened it up in Elegoo Slicer on my computer, started printing it on my 3D printer. Like, that's work I no longer have to do. But I had to orchestrate it, right? I had to give it a task. I had to watch over it. I had to make sure it was doing the right thing. And you can basically do almost anything. You can leverage AI in your business right now today, and it's very, very inexpensive. Like if you go get Claude Code, for instance, or get a Claude subscription, you can pay $100 a month and basically run it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And like, that's one of the things that I use to go find podcasts to be on. I use it to do, I right now, while I'm on this call, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 agents that are doing work for me while I'm doing this podcast with you. And they're all just doing random stuff that I need to get done today. So one of them's doing some banking things for me and reconciling some accounts. I've got another one over here that's doing some experimental lead generation. I've got a bunch of different agents that are just doing things for me. And those are not my non-human orchestrated employees. Those are just my human orchestrated employees. I'm micromanaging them and telling them what to do. So Claude Code is probably the easiest place to start there. Or Claude Cowork, I should say, if you're not a developer. And they do the same thing. And then the next bucket that you have would be fully autonomous AI agents. Now, what I mean by this is not only do they have agency, meaning I can tell them what to do and they can go do it, but they have autonomy, meaning that they can operate independent of me because they have a memory and they understand who they are, where they work, why they work there, what their main objectives and goals are, and what self-improvement looks like. They can modify their own code to become better at their job, and they can self-reflect on the work that they're doing to understand whether or not what they're doing needs to change and whether or not they're failing at things. And so, like, for instance, I've got if you go to Rue, you'll see one of the first things we're selling just as an off-the-shelf product is a lead generation agent that you can hire, and you explain who it is and you onboard them just like you do a human. You now work for me. This is what we sell. This is who we sell it to. And it goes out and it does all the work of just selling and booking appointments on your calendar. And if somebody emails them back, it'll have a conversation back and forth until they set an appointment on your calendar. And so as long as you do a good job of explaining to them where they work, why they work there, what you sell, and who you sell it to, then it's going to go out into the world and it's going to do its best to go and sell those people on having a meeting with your sales team. And you never have to intervene. You never have to tell it to get better. You never have to tell it to start up again. You don't have to tell it to run this morning or in the afternoon or any of that, because it works for you like a fully, like an actual employee. And so, like, I'm thoroughly interested in the third category. Right now, you really need developers to build those things and get there. But everyone should be playing with the human orchestrated agentic systems right now, because the barrier to entry is almost nothing. For $17 a month, you can get started with Claude Cowork. And it'll do $17 worth of work in the first hour that you actually figured out how to use it.
So we only have a few minutes left, but to get from using Cowork, which is you have to download Claude onto your desktop to use Cowork. First of all, you're not interacting through the browser anymore. It's not you're not chatting through. Most people know just go to Claude.ai. This is a step beyond that. And then, but to get to this fully agentic entity is a digital worker, Jesse. What does it take in time and material for a company to say, okay, I want to build a digital sales force or a digital controller for my finance department?
It really depends on what it is that you're building. Like, I've got a complex agent that we're working on right now for somebody that is doing mergers and acquisitions. So it's going out and finding companies for him to buy, doing all the due diligence on those companies and starting the negotiation. And that's all this digital employee does, is just look for acquisition opportunities. That employee, that process is complex and legal and other things. So to build a digital employee like that is going to run you $75,000 probably. And then to run it on a monthly basis it'll cost you another $2,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So his first year investment will be $100,000. And then after that, it'll fall to 24,000. But if you build something relatively straightforward and simple, like you want a controller that looks into your finances and does all that stuff, you're going to be spending between $8,000 and $12,000 to build it, and between $500 and $700 to run it on a monthly basis or less.
Yeah.
And so, if you figure if you go hire a controller for your finance team, it's going to be far more expensive to build something.
So in our last minute, Jesse, what happens to society when 90% of knowledge work is disrupted by the AI?
You know what? It's a cheating answer, but I tell people I'm not here to solve that problem. I'm just making it so no one has to work. But somebody had better start solving the problem of figuring out what us humans do when there's no work left for us to do. I was having a conversation with a technologist who's got her doctorate in psychology and sociology, and one of the things that she brought up is that like human beings have to have purpose, or we commit suicide is what ends up happening. We just don't do well when we have no purpose. And one of the ways that we get purpose in our lives is having something to do, i.e.
or hobbies or creative outlets or sports. Yes. I mean, there's a lot that if you think of humans that retire from working, right? Yeah. They're doing something. Some of them are sitting on the couch, but some of them are volunteering and giving back to society and creating value that way.
I think that's what happens. I mean, I think at the end of the day, AI provides value. The value gets distributed to the people. The people live the lives they want to live. I think that work will become optional in the future. If you want to work, you can, and you'll work alongside AIs. If you don't want to work, you won't have to, and you'll make money. Or
my question is, where does that paycheck come from for some people? Like, I could see it in my own business. Fine, if I have an army of digital consultants that are doing the work that I used to do, that there's an income stream there. But
yeah, I don't
know
the answer to that question. It's terrifying to me, actually. You know what? I think like people are worried about the AI, doing something and taking over the world. And, like we've got Skynet and robots and we're all enslaved. Like that's not the future that scares me. The future that scares me is when, knowledge work makes up about $70 trillion a year globally is paid out to people who do knowledge work, roughly between 50 and 70 trillion. Right now, the estimates say that AI can do 100% of 70% of that, meaning no human in the loop, no human intervention, no human needed at all. If you look at the unemployment rate that would happen if you get rid of, 30, 40, 50 trillion dollars worth of work globally, on an annual basis, you have an unemployment rate that's insane. So it's that transition that scares me between where we are today and getting to that place where the AI is doing stuff. And honestly, I don't have the answer to those things. What I tell people is you ought to learn AI now. If you don't know how to use it, you need to learn to use it today, because the people who are going to get more screwed over in that process are the people who don't know how to use it. But all of us are going to get screwed over in some way over the course of the next decade if the right people don't come in and solve the problem of what do we do with all these humans who are no longer valuable to us because of what they can do.
Yeah, check out Mo Gawdat. M-O is his first name, Gawdat. For my listeners, Mo Gawdat has a great YouTube channel, and he thinks very deeply about this. He's a technologist. He's an AI entrepreneur, and he thinks that we should lean into our humanity. And that's really my only answer is we have to lean into our humanity. That's something that the AI can never be, is fully human. It can do a lot of knowledge work, but it can never be fully human. And unfortunately, we have to leave it there. Jesse, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. Jesse Anglen, check him out at Rue AI. And please check out all of our content at cleanpowerhour.com. The best thing you can do to help others find this content is to just tell a friend or two about the show, and do it today. There are so many people who do not know about this library of content, which is super valuable to any energy professional. Hey guys, are you a residential solar installer doing light commercial, but wanting to scale into large CNI solar? I'm Tim Montague. I've developed over 150 megawatts of commercial solar, and I've solved the problem that you're having. You don't know what tools and technologies you need in order to successfully close 100 kW to megawatt scale projects. I've developed a commercial solar accelerator to help installers exactly like you. Just go to cleanpowerhour.com, click on strategy, and book a call today. It's totally free with no obligation. Thanks for being a listener. I really appreciate you listening to the pod. And I'm Tim Montague. Let's grow solar and storage. Go to Clean Power Hour and click strategy today. Thanks so much. And with that, Jesse, is there another way you would like to connect with our listeners?
No, they can go to Ruh AI, ruh.ai, if they got questions about what I do, or you can look me up on LinkedIn or Twitter if you just want to reach out and have a conversation. But yeah, happy to talk with anyone who wants to know more about how AI is going to affect their business and what they can do about it.
I'm Tim Montague. Let's grow solar and storage. Thank you so much, Jesse.
Thanks, Tim.
The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 10 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS product lineup includes string inverters ranging from 25 kW to 350 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 350 kW, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. CPS is the world's most bankable inverter brand and is America's #1 choice for solar plants, now offering solutions for commercial, utility, ESS, and balance of system requirements. Go to chintpowersystems.com or call 855-584-7168 to find out more.